Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a cold case file from the 90s, one that was deliberately buried for, well, decades. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a ghost story. It's a meticulously planned crime, literally designed to get away with murder. So let's dive right in. What if a ghost story was the absolute perfect cover for a crime? Our case takes us to a remote farmhouse in Haryana where a terrifying haunting was expertly staged to hide a really dark story of greed, betrayal, and a pretty chilling murder plot. Okay, so our investigation kicks off right here at this pretty isolated farmhouse. It's owned by a wealthy Delhi businessman, a guy named Raghav Malik. Now, on the surface, this place looks like a quiet getaway, you know? It's got a loyal caretaker, but what we're about to uncover is a conspiracy that was brewing just under the surface. All right, let's look at the key players in this whole thing. You've got Raghav Malik, the owner, a wealthy guy with a known heart condition. That's important. Then there's Raju, the caretaker, who's been loyal for a solid 10 years. And finally, Mohini, Raghav's wife, living back in Delhi. This triangle right here, motive, opportunity, a vulnerable target, this is the key to unlocking the entire case. Now, here's the first piece of what I'd call manufactured evidence. It's this warning. Raghav tells his caretaker, Raju, that there's going to be a scheduled power outage every single night, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. This isn't random, not at all. This is the first move on the chessboard, setting the stage for the perfect crime. So that brings us to the first official event in our case file, a really frantic phone call. It's Raju, the supposedly loyal caretaker, and he calls his boss in an absolute state of terror. He's claiming the farmhouse is haunted, and he thinks his life is in danger. And right there, that's the plan being set in motion. Listen to this. I feel like my death is standing right in front of me. Those are Raju's exact, chilling words. He sounds totally breathless, completely terrified, and he's begging Raghav to come to the farmhouse. He's not just, reporting a weird noise. He's describing a supernatural threat that feels deadly and immediate. Raju's story here is honestly a masterclass in psychological manipulation. He lays it on thick, describing these escalating horrors. First, an invisible presence, then a laughing face in the window, mysterious figures in the fields, and check this out. The power cutting out exactly at 9 p.m., that just lends this sinister, almost believable credibility to the whole haunting. And here's the grand finale of Raju's performance. The moment the lights go out, he claims he sees this headless ghost. It is the final, horrifying detail, and it's specifically designed to lure his employer right into the trap. So Raghav shows up the next day, and of course, he dismisses Raju's story, thinks it's complete nonsense. And to prove his point, he decides he's going to stay the night all by himself, which, of course, is exactly what the conspirators were hoping he'd do. Well, Raghav's skepticism doesn't last long. The haunting starts up again, and it follows this really carefully designed timeline. First, he hears glass shatter, sees a shadowy figure. Then, at 8:55, just before the outage, he hears this disembodied laughter. And then, right on the dot, 9 p.m., the power cuts. The house goes completely dark. The psychological torment is just building and building until he makes a run for it and realizes his only way out is blocked. And this is the crucial part. Raghav, a man with a known serious heart condition, is now trapped. To escape, he has to literally face his worst fears and go back into the very room where he thinks this ghost is waiting for him. The pressure, the stress on his heart, it's gotta be immense. So he steels himself and he goes back inside. He confronts this figure in the pitch-black hallway, and the shock is just too much. He collapses. Now, from the conspirators' point of view, the plan is working perfectly. They've got him. But the plan had one critical flaw. Raghav didn't actually die. He wakes up hours later, around 2:50 a.m., just minutes before the power is scheduled to come back on. And in that dead silence, he overhears a phone call that is about to unravel everything. And there it is. Madam, I could only make him faint. He didn't have a heart attack. The voice is talking to a madam, not some ghost. The whole point wasn't just to scare him. It was to induce a fatal heart attack. This was never a haunting. It was an assassination attempt. And then, at exactly 3 a.m., the lights flicker back on. And in that sudden, blinding brightness, Raghav sees the man who tried to kill him. It's not a phantom. It's not a spirit. It's his loyal caretaker of 10 years, Raju. So let's just break this whole thing down. The ghost story? It was a meticulously crafted illusion. Every single strange noise, every shadowy figure, was all designed to weaponize Raghav's own heart condition against him. The real plot was to literally scare him to death. Okay, so as Raghav is confronting Raju, Raju's phone rings. And the caller ID? It says Mohini Madam. In that split second, Raghav knows. He knows the mastermind is his own wife. But instead of panicking, he immediately starts scripting his own counterplot. Raghav has Raju put the phone on speaker, and Mohini reveals the motive. It's simple, really. She promised Raju 5% of Raghav's entire fortune in exchange for his murder. It always comes down to money, doesn't it? But here's the thing. Raghav doesn't call the police. Nope. He sees an opportunity. He plays the part of the defeated husband, luring Mohini to the farmhouse. He's already turning his would-be killer into his new accomplice. And this is the ruthless masterstroke. Raghav doubles his wife's offer. He promises Raju 10%, not of his fortune, but of the farmhouse itself, if he kills Mohini when she arrives. He just turned Raju's greed against the person who started this whole thing. So Mohini arrives, probably feeling pretty confident. But Raju, his allegiance now bought and paid for, does exactly what he's told. He murders Mohini, believing he's just secured his future. But then comes the final, absolutely devastating twist. As Raju is standing there, probably over the body, Raghav calmly informs him, "Oh, by the way, I sold this farmhouse a week ago. I was just here to pack. That 10% share? It's completely worthless." Raghav wasn't negotiating with assets. He was negotiating with lies. So, the case was closed. Just like that. The official story that went out to the public was that this was a crime of passion, an affair between Mohini and Raju that went horribly wrong and ended in a murder-suicide. And this narrative gave Raghav the perfect cover. He got to play the part of the grieving, sympathetic victim, when in reality, he was the only one who walked away with everything. So the haunting at the Haryana farmhouse was a total hoax, but the evil that was inside those walls, that was terrifyingly real. And it really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? In a story with absolutely no heroes, who was the real predator and who was just the pred?